In 2019, the final How to Train Your Dragon movie released in theaters, titled How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World, is once again directed by Dean DeBlois and starring Jay Baruchel, America Ferrera, F. Murray Abraham, as well as Cate Blanchett. This movie is about when Hiccup discovers that Toothless is not the only Night Fury. He must journey to discover the hidden world, a dragon utopia for all dragons to live before a hired tyrant by the name of Grimmel seeks it first. It is a battle of wits in this one, and definitely is something very interesting. So we're going to talk about this movie and help you decide if this is the right movie for you to watch as a Christian. Hey friends, welcome to the channel. I'm your host Tim, and we exist to help Christians live in the world, not of the world, by utilizing our convictions in the movies and shows we watch. How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World is rated PG for some adventure action and some mild, rude humor. So we're going to go over any convictions you may have that may prevent you from watching this third installment of the series, any theological themes present in this finale, and wrap it up with my own personal thoughts on the film. Without further ado, let's dive into the Christian Conviction Meter. In case you're brand new here, the Christian Conviction Meter is a series of 5 convictions that may distract or hinder your relationship with Jesus. Ultimately, it's a guide, tool, and resource to help you find good movies to watch based on the convictions God has given you. Let's dive into our first category. And kicking things off with violence and gore here, it's about on par with the previous 2 How to Train Your Dragon movies because it has a lot of the same elements given that it's all in the same franchise here. How to Train Your Dragon 3 has a lot more fire though. There's a lot of fire, from fire blades to fire just breathing dragons, obviously, and explosions. There's a ton of that in this film. I'd say it's more than the previous 2 installments of the How to Train Your Dragon franchise. There is, of course, a lot of Viking action. When I'm talking about that, it's the use of swords, shields, axes, and in this case, the use of dragons fighting. There also is just a lot of other things in this movie as well, because it's a lot of about capturing dragons once again. So there's some traps and there's some different things of that sort, blow darts, some of those things that are contained within this movie. Again, it's just a lot of action in this one because there's just a lot of moving pieces within this film. But there is really nothing out of the ordinary from, like I said, the previous 2 films. Maybe just a little more intense, but not significant enough to raise it up to another level. This is going to be a 2 out of 5 in this category. Luckily for us, our next 3 categories, which are lust, substances, and profanity, there's nothing to worry about for this film. There is nothing lustful in this film. There's no substances other than maybe some poison for a blow dart, but there's no abuse contained within the film. And then, of course, on top of that, there is no profanity, no foul language to worry about within this film. These 3 categories are all going to be a 0 out of 5 because of the lack of something, aka nothing. Our last category is intense/horror scenes. This is not a horror show or movie, so obviously there is no horror elements contained within the movie. There are some creepier elements though, are kind of evil dragons that are evil villain of the film, what he kind of uses as his pets, his kind of helpers, henchmen, whatever you want to call them. They are a bit creepy, and that's intended based off their design, and so it may be a little scary for some younger viewers. They are also pretty intense as well, actively trying to take out our heroes. I did touch on this earlier. There is, of course, the use of traps and talking about capturing dragons, and not just capturing dragons, but killing dragons. So that may be obviously a little more intense, but it's nothing out of the ordinary because the first movie did talk about that in literally the first 5 minutes of the film. So again, those are all things just to kind of keep in mind here. And for the most part, it does have some intense moments of action in this one, and overall it's just a bit more, I'd say, emotional at times in this one, especially compared to the last 2. It definitely has a bit more intensity in the stakes for this film. That's probably the best way to describe it. To be on the safe side here, we're going to give this a 2 out of 5 in this category as well. So our grand total for the Christian conviction meter for The Hidden World is going to be a 4 out of 25. Obviously, based off the score being lower, it can mean a more general audience could participate in watching this film if they so choose to. But as always, like I like to say, if any of this compromises your convictions in any way, shape, or form, based off what we talked about, stick to your convictions. Ultimately, this is a guide, tool, and resource to help you find good movies to watch based on the convictions that God has given you. Use those convictions for yourself. We're just here to provide you with just information on some of the stuff that is contained within this film. Speaking of which, that leads us right into our next topic, which of course is diving into some theological themes that are present within The Hidden World. And I'll be honest, there really isn't much of anything here. I didn't see anything in particular that really aligns with anything theologically. There's nothing explicit about Jesus, Christianity, the Bible, the church. None of that is really contained within this film, and that kind of makes sense because obviously this film is not only a kid's film, but at the same time too, it does deal with kind of more Nordic regions and Vikings, and most of that area kind of worships Norse gods. So Thor, Odin, Loki, some of those things are more of their kind of cup of tea rather than obviously Jesus. So, but it's not like a in front of your face sort of thing. And that's the same thing that goes through in this movie as well. So with that wrapped up, what are my thoughts on How to Train Your Dragon, The Hidden World? And I gotta be honest, this film very much felt like a step down from the original two. Granted, it could be a bit of blindside of nostalgia, at least for me, because I grew up watching the first two movies. I was the right age when How to Train Your Dragon first came out, and when How to Train Your Dragon 2 came out, I was a little bit older, but I still appreciated animated movies. I was the right age for those. This came out 5 years after the second one in 2019. I was a bit older, never got the chance to see it, and in preparation for doing this review, obviously I went and watched it for the first time. I wouldn't say it completely is devoid of all the magic of the first two, but there is a sense in my mind something is missing from this film compared to the rest of them. And sure, the action and adventure in this film is really solid, just like the other two previous installments. And just like those as well, the relationship between Hiccup and Toothless is fantastic. It's so well done. There's great humor involved in it, and they really just are a great duo together. But this movie just feels so inconsistent, and one of those things in particular is its story. Because on one hand, it is a budding romance story between Toothless, our Night Fury, and a Light Fury, right? It has that kind of budding love that happens through this film. But then you also have the side story of, oh, we're going to be hunting Night Furies because we're bringing in the, Night Fury hunter named Grimmel. And then you also have this about discovering the hidden world and trying to save the dragons and the rest of Burke and trying to keep their lifestyle. And it's also in a way like a different type of coming of age story. And again, like I said in a few other reviews, it's okay to have multiple things going on in these films. A lot of films do that. They have lots of different moving pieces. It doesn't gel all that well for me. It isn't as cohesive in its moving pieces as, say, How to Train Your Dragon 2 is, or even the original How to Train Your Dragon film. Those felt a little more cohesive in their moving parts, especially the first one where pretty much everything kind of tied together, and even more so in the second one also felt like, sure, you had different moving pieces, but it all was brought together and was done quite well. Again, it's a noticeable step down from the originals. And it really just breaks my heart for this franchise because this is one of those franchises that's so well loved. And I know there are people who absolutely adore this film. And I'm not by any means saying it's a bad movie. In fact, I still quite enjoyed it, even though I think it is quite flawed. I still enjoyed the movie. I thought the story, even though it was a little bit cookie cutter and a little bit kind of inconsistent, I still found it pretty enjoyable. I love being in the How to Train Your Dragon world. I think the world building is so good, and they continue to do that in this film. The animation is fantastic. The way they mature our characters and the bit of story arc that happens through these things is really good. The score is once again good. And also they redeemed a few things that I thought were not as good in the second one. The biggest one in my mind is Astrid has a much bigger role in this film than she's ever had. And that I think is exactly the right thing they needed to do, especially for that character. And I still enjoyed the movie, again, even though I got my problems with it. But I think the biggest problem of this entire movie, and maybe it's just a franchise problem, is its villains. Grimmel is such a weak villain. He doesn't feel imposing. He doesn't feel intimidating. There is like no way for me to kind of like, even as just someone watching the movie, there's not a sense of you want to root for him, nor is there a sense of you want to despise and hate him. A good villain can appeal to your emotions, and you either like absolutely hate them, or is like, oh, this is a really compelling character. Grimmel is not that in any way, shape, or form. I found him very flat, dull, and weak. His premise and concept is phenomenal. Being the Night Fury killer is a amazing idea. It just falls flat, and that's probably the biggest theme of this movie. It has a lot of great concepts, it has a lot of great ideas. It just falls a little flat in its execution, and it may just be also from a standpoint of there's a high standard with the last two films. They're regarded as some of the best, not just of DreamWorks, but some of the best animated movies of all time. I even said that in the first How to Train Your Dragon review. It's one of the greatest animated movies of all time. This one doesn't close the deal for me. All of that being said, it does wrap up this franchise very well. It's so weird. It's, again, the word to describe this film is just inconsistent. We get to the end of the movie and it just ends it so beautifully. I, unfortunately, because it took me so long to actually watch this movie, did get spoiled for the end, but it's just really beautiful. Like, they ended it on such a good note. It's just a shame everything before that isn't to that same level. Overall, did I enjoy it? Yes. Do I think it's a flawed movie? Yes, absolutely. Do I think it is helping this trilogy become the greatest animated trilogy of all time? Honestly, probably not. But I still had some fun with it. There's still some enjoyable moments in it, and overall I still think it was a solid movie. It just had some things I wasn't crazy about. So overall, I'm giving it a 7.9 out of 10. Like I said, I did enjoy it for the most part. I know I sounded pretty negative in the review, but there are things I do enjoy about this movie, and I thought overall it was fun. It just felt like a step down from the original two, which I have both in the 9s. So just my thoughts though. So it's a 4 out of 25 on the conviction meter, and it is a 7.9 out of 10 in our review. Those are my thoughts, so let me know yours down in the comments below. So let's chat about this one down in the comments. And while you're down there, consider hitting that like and subscribing for us, joining our community here on YouTube, and it just helps to send us out to more Christians, allow them to utilize their convictions in the movies and shows they watch to ultimately follow Jesus better. That is really just our intent and goal, is to help you guys. So with that being said, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to spend time with us here. We truly appreciate it. It means the absolute world to us. But before you go, there are a few video recommendations over here that YouTube is suggesting to you. One of which is How to Train Your Dragon 2, our review of the second film of this really, really good franchise. Anyways, we'll see you all in the next one.